Okay. Welcome to my second stream. Second week, Friday, 2 p.m. Today we're talking about the strategies for cost-efficient tech development. So let's dive right in. So a lot of times when companies approach me and they have an idea, they want to build a prototype, they start with a solution already in mind. They imagine a feature set and then they imagine, okay, we have a budget. Sometimes they're quite vague about what that is, but everyone has a budget. They have a budget and a scope, and they want to know how fast we can develop that and how much is it going to cost us. So in essence, they start with this mindset of let's first build it and then we'll see the impact, right? I think it's really important that we shift the mindset to impact first. What do I mean? If you build it, they will come is a common phrase, and that's the mindset that I just described. You've got an idea of the tech that you need in order to get somewhere, and the scope and the budget, and you imagine, okay, I'm gonna build it, and then the users will come. There will be some business impact. But that presents some dangers. First of all, it starts with an assumption. It says, it can lead to a misalignment with the business goals. It adds unnecessary costs and complexities, and then you can easily put too much emphasis on features that are not required to get to that desired outcome, because you scoped it out first based on an assumption. So I would say let's shift that conversation and let's start with why and then work back to the how. Like, what do we want to achieve with the product, with the business? What kind of impact? What kind of business goals? And then technology serves that purpose, and that's how we get to the cheapest tech is the most efficient one, and that's the one where you are building just the things that you need. You want to be as lean as possible. That's the benefits, right? You get a higher likelihood of the return on your investment. You avoid unnecessarily complex things because maybe you could get to the solution with a simpler thing. You get better alignment because the tech that you will develop will serve a business goal, and your guiding star is real customer needs. Because if you manage to satisfy customer demand, if you find what they need and you provide a good solution, they will reward you either with your time, with their time, or their money. So here's the thing, right? Technology is a tool and not an end. And business goals should drive the tech decisions and not the other way around. That's the first strategy to building cost-efficient tech. The second strategy is to prioritize features. I said let's shift the narrative around and work backward from what we want to achieve to how do we want to achieve it, right? It means that we need to prioritize the features that will focus and give us the most value. And for that, we need to understand the big picture. So let's talk about how we can do that. I stole this slide from my good friend Dennis. He had an amazing live stream yesterday about estimates. And this is how it typically looks like, right? I mentioned in the beginning that we have, if we start with a scope in mind of this is how the solution looks like, this is what our product looks like, and we will build it, we have a budget in mind, and the two most pressing questions are how much do we need to invest and how long will it take? And then we want to have estimates on when that will happen. And estimates are usually wrong, so you try to estimate and guess, okay, how much will it be, plus minus something, how long will it take, is it going to be 3 months, 6 months, a year, and you try to squeeze the thing, the whole scope, and get an estimate. But that's not exactly how things work. If you switch the approach and you look at the business impact first, and then you work backwards to the how and what you need to build, you actually see that your product is a set of components, right? It's a set of features, and each feature will have an impact with your customers. So the question is not how much the whole project takes and how long will it take, but what arrangement, what configuration of features do we want, and which one do we build first? Because this is where we get the most learnings from. When we identify the thing that's valuable and the thing that we should build first, we can start working on that and drive the learning loop. So we learn as we're building this one, and importantly, releasing it to our users and testing how it performs. We learn how to build it, how fast we are, and then the next one gets easier because we can compare it in sizes. Is it the same kind of scope, or is it too scary? Is it too big? So once we decide our configuration, we should have some factors in mind. First, the customer value. You know, what benefits the customer directly? What kind of impact will we see? What's the business value of that? And sometimes that's really hard to measure because you don't know. You have some gut feeling about how a certain feature will perform, and you can even ask your customers, but until you really give it into their hands, it's just guesswork. So it's really important that you tighten that feedback loop, and we'll talk a little bit more in depth about this later down in the presentation. The next one is technical feasibility. Can it be done with the current tech constraints that we have? Cost, of course. How much will roughly how much we will spend on development, maintenance, and what other features it relies upon. And there are always constraints, right? Everyone's familiar with the famous iron triangle of cost, quality, and time, where we need to figure out which one of the three you will choose. You can only have two at a time. So when you have your configuration, you should choose features with the highest return on investment first. The things that you feel that are gonna have that. And then try to get them into the hands of the users as fast as possible, because the faster that you make that loop of getting real world feedback, the less time you spend potentially working on a feature that doesn't deliver any impact and just spends a whole bunch of money. So you want to maximize learning. And here we said, okay, this is about the feedback loops, right? You want to go from a hypothesis that you have about your product, about the market, about your customers, into production, and then you start with an assumption. You say, okay, I think that feature would satisfy customer demand. You want to develop and deploy it as quickly as possible, and then test it in the hands of the users, get their feedback, see how it performs, refine it, and then have another assumption, and you just keep increasing that feedback loop. By the way, I welcome everyone who just joined in on the stream. We're talking about the strategies for cost-efficient tech development, and I would love to hear your questions. So if you have questions, just please write them in the chat below, and I'll get to them later. And now let's talk about, once we have the hypothesis to production loop going and we are increasing our learnings, what's another strategy that can lead to our development being more cost efficient? A big one for sure is automated deployments, because it speeds up release cycles, reduces human errors, and ensures consistency. And it also ties into the previous point. This only really works if you have automated deployment. And to do automated deployment, another strategy is to do trunk-based development. Now this encourages frequent commits that you avoid long-lived branches and merge conflicts, and you lean on feature flags in order to get there, right? So those are all connected, but the goal is all the same. It's to get from idea to production really fast and maximize learning. Sorry about Strategy number 6, embrace boring technology. I talked about this in my previous live stream on the MVP, in my tech strategies for building MVPs. And the thing to remember about boring technology, it's not really boring. It's proven, reliable. There's less surprises than with choosing something new and shiny. Development is going to be quick, especially when you know the feature set, the language, the stack. You have a multitude of resources to lean on, and there's plenty of talent on the market. And last time there was a lot of questions, right? What about no code? It seems like a really good solution. For me, a lot of times that's no thanks for most projects, because it has a couple of really big downsides, in my opinion. It's hard to find talent. That's the first thing. And it requires an investment from your part. You need to learn. There's not a lot of experts for each of the no-code tools, so you need to learn it. And you invest a lot into actually learning it. Then it can have potential performance issues. It's hard to scale. So it offers a feature set out of the box, but it's usually very hard to customize or upgrade later down the line. And you're locked in. Basically, when you say my MVP is over, you will need to rebuild. You cannot just keep using no code forever. And you have less control over the infrastructure. So no code lives somewhere between you want to test something out in the market, but it has kind of a niche application. So for most projects, I would avoid it. I would build it modularly on a proven tech stack. Choose boring technology, and because it's going to be easy to find talent, build a tech team, increase that learning loop, and then ultimately scale when things go right and you found the feature set that you need and you found that it works, and then it's time to scale. You will not have problems. Now this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's many more points to talk about, like efficient team design, right? If you scale your tech team too fast, you're going to take on a lot of communication overhead. And that's going to drive your cost up by a lot, because people are one of the most cost-intensive resources in a tech organization. So starting with a smaller team of experienced people can be a good mix. Like, don't add too many juniors into the mix. Have a good balance so that you keep productivity high, and be really deliberate on when you want to scale beyond 10 people, because that's usually where the problems start. Because for scaling a tech team over 10 people, you need a different approach. You need a different organizational structure. You need different communication structures. And the return lessens because when you do a split, the communication overhead eats into your games. So 20 people are not going to be twice as productive as 10 people. So you get diminishing returns. Which means that it makes sense to start with a smaller amount of people, but invest into them. Find gaps in their knowledge and then give them the training that they need so that they are improving as individuals, and really build a culture of excellence so that as time goes on, you're not only building your MVP, but you're also building the team that builds the MVP. That's where the real gold is. So over time, your team will get better as they learn to, we talked about components before. As they build one component, it's going to be messy. You're figuring things out, how to set up a dev environment, how to set up a deployment pipeline. By the time you're doing your third component and releasing it into the hands of the users, you've gotten better and better. So the team is actually the most precious thing to protect and to nurture. Because a well-oiled team can get twice as fast, 3 times as fast, 5 times as fast. The next point that's also taken from my tech strategy is third-party services, right? You want to develop your core functionality, the problem that you're actually solving, and use as many third-party services, especially if it's an MVP. You don't want to reinvent the wheel and build a warehousing system. There's plenty of them on the market. Don't develop your own database, just use a database. So that can save you a lot of cost on the actual development, because you're focusing on your core problem and developing that, and then just using Auth0 for authentication, leaning into other APIs, plugging that in. And once you scale and maybe an API becomes too expensive, then you can see, okay, do I need to develop my own? But that's for later. Those are the sweet problems, right? You're always trading problems for hopefully better problems. Then another key point is infrastructure. Like a big trap to fall into is you're starting out and you want to build cheap and efficient tech, and you get a bunch of AWS credits. And you set up this elaborate structure of services that they provide, so you integrate deeply into their infrastructure, and then the cloud bill eats up your whole budget because you burn through those credits, and then the bills start coming, right? The trick is to build efficiently, and I like to do that by not focusing too much on. It needs to be a balance, right? How much are we investing into scaling and performance right now, based on the amount of people that we have and we expect to have? Because the trap is you want to scale too early. That can balloon your costs. Have a plan to scale. It needs to be achievable. Like if you have a hard cutoff point and you will say, okay, when we reach that, we need to rewrite everything. That's a bad situation to be in, because you know that there's a limit, and if your growth accelerates, then you're trapped. So you always want to have a plan for the next step and a vision for the 2 steps ahead or 3 steps ahead. How will you solve those problems when they come? But don't go too fast and too far into that. So my approach to infrastructure is keep it as lean as possible. And when you're doing performance optimization, there's 2 sides to it. First is the actual hardware performance that you need. Like keep scaling the database when you need it, but don't scale it before you've optimized your queries, right? So it goes on both sides. So that was my presentation. I hope to make this interactive, so I would love to hear your questions. and then we can delve deeper into a discussion if you have a topic that you would like to look, if you have a question that's pressing. So let's go into the Q&A. By the way, welcome everyone to my second live stream. If you just joined now, because I see some people have just joined, today we're talking about strategies for cost-efficient tech development. And if I do a quick recap of what we talked about, it was that you should shift the impact, shift your mindset from build it and they will come. So building a product first and then seeing the impact, into let's start with the why and then figure out the how. We were talking about how to prioritize features, what's a configuration versus estimation, and how to find the configuration for your product that works. And then we were talking about some factors, the iron triangle, how you need to choose between quality, time, and how much it costs, and that you should prioritize features with the highest ROI. We are talking about how to maximize the learning loop, right? That you want to get from a hypothesis to production as fast as possible. And to do that, you do it through automated deployments. You use trunk-based development for that. You embrace boring technology, and you steer away from no code unless you have a very specific use case for it. So let's see, do we have some questions? I see that people are people are in the stream, but they are somehow shy to to bring their question. Just you can also just say hi. I know it's the second live stream ever, so it will take some time for the audience to build up. But I'm committed to doing these live streams. I really like the format, and I would love to make it interactive so that we can have a discussion. I think LinkedIn is a great platform for that. Just the amount of people that I've met through LinkedIn who are doing something similar to myself has been great. And now doing this LinkedIn lives now for the second time has been great. I see. Thank you, Peter. I guess there were some technical difficulties. I was under the impression that I stopped the music. But let's see. Okay. So second live stream. And of course somehow I have comments here and they didn't load, so welcome everyone. I saw that, hey Peter, nice to see you on the stream. Hey Dennis. That's right, you want to start building blocks that create demand and create knowledge. Marketing and product loves the first, developers need the second. So yeah. Go and watch Dennis's stream from yesterday. He goes into more details about the estimations. Ikra asks, hi Ty, how do these strategies go side by side, specifically third party and infrastructure? Ikra, can you elaborate a little bit more on that? What do you mean by how do these strategies go side by side? Peter asks, can you dive deep into similarities with hardware development and production? Unfortunately, I'm not an expert in hardware development, so I think we need to jump on a stream together, and you can tell me how it looks like when you're. I'm guessing that it's hard to get really fast feedback loops when you're developing hardware. So in software, I know it's quite easy. In hardware, it might be a bit difficult because there's probably a time where you are doing the designs on a simulator and everything works, but then you actually need to get samples back, and it can take some time if you cannot build it yourself. So that's probably where some problems are, but I would love to hear more about you. Yeah, maybe I forgot to mention, like most of this time, most of what I was talking about was related to my expertise from a software development perspective. So from building websites and mobile apps, and a lot of this applies more broadly as well to other fields, but I'm not familiar with the intricacies of, for example, hardware development, how that goes hand in hand, or some other fields. Peter says, I only build prototypes and designs, not serial production or even mass production. Yeah, we can discuss next time. Yeah, I mean, as a hobby, I'm always interested in technology and like computers, CPUs. So it's also like foundries and how chip design works and how you develop these high-tech components. So it's an interesting topic of discussion for sure. Ikra, are you still with us? I didn't forget about your question. I just would love to know a bit more about what specifically you would like to know. And if anyone else has some more questions, please come in. I can still see that there's people on the stream. Though I probably need to reload this. Let's see. Yeah, I guess if there's no more questions, we will. I can still see people coming in, so I guess a lot of people are just curious what's going on. There's a live stream going on. Okay, let me check also the other side. Bitrate's good. Okay, let's see. Any more questions, comments, wishes, topics for the next live stream? Ikra asks, as we see the trends, the market supports third-party services, but still we face difficulties even offering this service or finding third-party services. Let me just check. I mean, when I was talking about third-party services, I was mostly talking about the tools that you need to, the tools that exist on the marketplace already that solve a specific problem, right? If you, for example, want a chat app, you know, like a typical example is how Slack was invented. It was built by a tech company, it was built by a game developer. And of course, the first thing that they thought is, oh, we need an internal chat tool. And then we can make our game, right? And that's a very common trap. But in Slack case, it actually worked, right? So they spent all this time investing into the internal tool for chatting. And then they realized, actually, our internal tool for chatting is better than the games that we would develop. So that became the main product, but that was accidental. Usually it doesn't work like that. Usually if you spend time building solutions, third-party services that you could get off the shelf, you know, for example, if you were doing payment processing in-house, you know, why you would do that? It's a lot of effort, a lot of compliance. It takes, you know, you need to harden security, or you could just go with a third-party payments provider and just integrate PayPal and Stripe and some others. And you get everything that they offer out of the box. Yeah, you pay a fee, like a small percentage, but it's developed. What kind of third-party services are you offering? Or have difficulty finding? Just for anyone curious, this is a brutal Listic pencil from the famous Barbican building in London. Let's see, I'm gonna wait 3 more minutes for another question, and if nothing comes, then I'll end the live stream. So Dennis sent us a link a bit behind that, leading and lagging indicators. So some have a low data fidelity. So let's see, business goals, customer value, sustainability, business objectives, flow metrics, continuous delivery metrics, continuous integration metrics. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining the stream. I'm gonna end it now as there are no further questions, but if you do wanna chat, please reach out to me and say hello, don't be a stranger. I'm gonna keep doing this live stream, so there is gonna be opportunity for more interaction, for more. I look forward to having and meeting great people such as yourself, and keeping up with these live streams. So thank you for your attention and time, and I wish you all an amazing day. Take care. Ikra, I will contact you after the stream, and we can discuss privately.